In doing what I do for a living, I talk to a ton of candidates. But one of the things that I have never heard a candidate say is, Ben, you know what I want? I want you to find me a company who's gonna work me to the bone. I don't wanna have nights, I don't wanna have weekends. I want to work like an indentured servant. That never happens because people value work-life balance. Most people do. But when you're interviewing with a company, how do you know if they do? How do you know if they're going to keep work time as work and your own time as your own? Well, today I'm gonna show you how to find out if they do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the preparation you should do, and I'm gonna give you 7 great questions to ask about work-life balance and 1 question that I don't like. Let's go. Hi, I'm Ben White with Ben Talks Talent. I've got 11 years experience in hiring, recruiting, talent acquisition, team building, and I am passionate about using my experience to help you land your dream job. Today, I want to talk about work-life balance. I actually had one of my connections reach out and ask for good questions, and I thought I had made a video, but it turns out I hadn't, so it is long overdue. Before I get into it though, do me a quick favor. If you're seeing this on YouTube and you haven't already, show me some love. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you never miss one of my videos, and hit that like button. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. I get a lot of great ideas from there too, with people asking me questions and comments. And if you're seeing this on LinkedIn, please do not stop watching, keep watching, but when you're done, go and check out my YouTube. Everything that I put on LinkedIn, I also put on YouTube, but I put more stuff on YouTube as well. I keep pointing over here, so I'm gonna have to put a YouTube icon up there, otherwise I'm gonna seem crazy. Let's get into the video. So first and foremost, the first question I would ask every single time when I'm interviewing with a company, if I'm concerned about work-life balance, is I would ask them, how would you describe your culture? Now, it's different than saying, hey, what is your company culture? You should know that, right? As a candidate, you should probably already know. But when you say, how would you describe it? You're getting their perspective on culture. And in there, they're gonna say things like work hard, play hard. Good, that play hard there is a good thing. But they might describe other things. You know, we're dedicated, we're willing to go the extra mile. You know, we're willing to do whatever it takes to, accomplish our goals. And if you're really concerned about work-life balance, that might give me a little bit of pause. Now, you're gonna ask many of these questions, not just one, so you're gonna have a lot of information, but that's where you start. Now, the second thing I would do is I would say, how would you say that describes your team's culture overall? Or how would you say your individual team culture compares to your company culture? Because it is one thing to have a company culture, but there are always subcultures within the individual teams. And if you're talking to the hiring manager, you wanna know what their perspective is. How well does it mesh? Are there things they do differently? If you're asking about team culture in general, it makes sense to take one more step, dig just a little bit deeper, and ask about team culture. The next question I want to talk about, which is one that kind of hits them right between the eyes, and it's, what do you do to support your team's work-life balance? It's a great one. I'm a hiring manager, so I have a team, and if someone asks me this question, guess what? I have an answer because I care about work-life balance. But if you ask this question and they go, good question. I don't know. They normally take care of their work-life balance. I'm not really sure. Guess what? They don't do anything. If you do stuff to make sure that your people have work-life balance, you have an answer. And if you ask this question and they don't have anything, they don't. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to step over boundaries or they're going to be emailing you or texting you in the nights and weekends to do things. But they certainly aren't proactive when it comes to protecting your time. And that's something you want to look for. When you're talking with your next hiring manager, if you care about work-life balance, one of the things that you're hoping to spot when you ask these questions are indicators that they are protective of the separation between your work life and your personal life. So that's what you want to be looking for. And if you ask what they specifically do and they don't have an answer, they don't do anything. That's a problem. The next question I like to ask is, what does a typical day look like for someone who is successful in this role? Right? It's a great question because you're not just talking about the average employee, you're talking about someone who's successful. And what in their mind does it take to be successful here? Because if you're starting a new job, you're gonna wanna be successful, right? You're gonna want your manager to think you're successful, right? Of course you do. So you wanna meet their perspective of success and the work that it takes to get there. And if they go, well, first things first, 6:30 in the morning, they're sending emails. At night, they're doing the prep work. That's a red flag. If you care about work-life balance, the way they describe a successful person's day is key. ask this question. What they say will be enlightening to you. I love a lot of these questions, so I'm gonna say that a lot, but I really love this one. It's how much control does your team have when it comes to developing the structure of completing their tasks and achieving their goals? So what is that question all about, right? We know there are goals. We know there are things that people need to achieve. We know there are tasks, but how much control do you have? And how much control does somebody else have? Because the more control you have, the more you'll be able to structure your day as you see fit. And guess what? That is incredibly important when it comes to work-life balance. Because if you can kind of schedule your day and decide when you are doing what, that affords you flexibility. It affords you work-life balance. But if you are up to the whims and desires of somebody else when it comes to when you need to do tasks, you're going to lack that kind of availability, that kind of freedom that's going to afford you a great work-life balance. Ask this question, listen to what they say. If they go, hey, I'm hands off. I don't care when things happen, as long as they happen. I let my team dictate that. Ding, 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 that's work-life balance. But if they say to you, I have times that I need things done. I have, it's very regimented. I have expectations. That I wouldn't feel as good about. The next thing you absolutely need to ask in every single interview you do for the rest of your life is describe yourself as a manager. This is important for a lot of reasons, right? But it certainly plays a role in work-life balance. The way they feel, the way they act as a leader, the way they feel like their role in your success is going to contribute heavily to your work-life balance. So if you accept a job without knowing how your manager describes themselves as a manager, you have missed the boat. You have not prepped properly, you have not asked questions properly, and you do not have enough information to say yay or nay on an offer if work-life balance is important to you. Ask it every time and look for what they say. If they say things like, I'm a servant leader, or I like to lead by example, or I like to facilitate success but stay out of the way, those are good things. If there's someone who likes to say, hey, I like to be very involved, I like to be scheduling the meetings, I like to be involved in everything, that might be a problem to me. And it's one of the things that I think you need to watch out for. But if you're interviewing and you leave that interview and you never ask this question, to me, that's a problem. The next question I would love you to ask is, what is your view on telecommuting? Now, even if you don't want to telecommute, I think you still ask this. One, let's just say you want to telecommute. Well, if you want to be able to work from home 1 day a week, 2 days a week, sporadically, occasionally, frequently, whatever it is, you want to know this, right? You want to know how they feel about it. And they're going to be honest. If someone says, how do you feel about it? They're not going to be like, I love it. Telecommute all day, every day. And then you start and they're like, no telecommuting. People are going to be honest about this. I think it's one of those things where it's so new that people haven't prepared a lot to answer the question. You'll probably get their candid thoughts. And quite frankly, I think it behooves everyone to answer and react honestly. So I expect they'll tell you how they feel. And if they say, yeah, I don't like it, take them at their word. They don't like it. And if they say, you know what, within reason, I'm okay with that. That's another good thing. Even if you don't want to telecommute though, you want to know how they feel about it, because it probably speaks to how they feel about getting your work done. Can you get work done without oversight, without supervision? Of course you can. Then it's okay to telecommute. If they feel like, nah, I don't want you telecommuting ever, well, they might be a bit of a micromanager. Now, it could be because they feel like it's important to team camaraderie. That's different, but I'd ask it every time. Now, lastly, before we go, I want to talk about a question I hate. One of the questions you could say is, what is your mission statement, right? And people view that like, okay, well then they'll tell me about that. But you should already know. As a candidate, it makes you look ill-informed if you ask them a question like that. Same as, what are your cultural values? That's different from the first question. The first question I told you to ask is, describe. How would you describe your culture? That's different than, what are your cultural values? You should already know that. Don't ask a question like that. It makes you look like you didn't do your research. You never want that as a candidate. Well, there you go. Those are all the questions I would recommend asking about work-life balance. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Good luck in your next interview. You've got this.